Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Talk of the Titans, live from London, UK, all the way to the US of A and worldwide. I'm your host, Kalam L, and this is Talk with the Titans. You know what? This is part two, numero two. Is it? Numero uno, numero two. I don't know. Forgive me. But anyways, family, if you haven't already hit the like button, just hit the like button, man. Give me those thumbs up. Let us know that you're here to support Titans TV and all that good stuff, gang. What we're actually going to do today, we're actually doing a part two of the original show. Was actually debunking Husain Thomas's claims, etc. Like, it was a throwaway show. It's gonna be nice. I know you guys are gonna enjoy it though, because we do what we do. We does what we does. But this show now is actually more to do with education. It's more to do with Kemet. It's more to do with incorporating actually all the three different religions, whether it's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. We're going to be definitely talking about covenants. We're going to be talking about temple systems. We're going to be talking about Melchizedek in particular as well, and also the ancient Egyptian ways of doing things, and Ma'at, one of the most key fundamental philosophies in all of all of it, to be honest with you. So family, again, please hit the like button, and we're going to go into something right now. Gabs, do you want to say something to the family?
Yeah, man. I just want to say peace to the family. I'm glad some of you guys still tuned in. Yeah, man, we're gonna share some good information, man. Like I said, me and the brother Kalam had a nice discussion the other day, and we thought we'd just break down a few things, and just talk with the family and share some information, and hopefully the family can reflect some of the information that we're sharing back to us as well. So let's go.
All right. So earlier on, you were saying that basically there was a conversation you had in the gang circle, the G circle, that we have over at Speaker's Corner. So family members, like, everybody comes down, we create a circle. I have to give my shout outs to brothers like Content, brothers like Jedi, brothers like Respect, that really was key in actually establishing this particular G circle, where everybody comes down and states what they want for the community, what they're doing for the community, how they're trying to better the community, what are the ills and wrongs and injustices within inside of our community, and what solutions can we bring forward for our community. You know what? Yeah, this is absolutely brilliant. This is the next step. This is the next level that we need to get to. Trust me, trust me. Sometimes, we open up for everybody else. I know that was one of my fundamental roles at being at Speaker's Corner, is being able to open up that way, open up the way that everybody else could start coming in, participating, and actually growing something so beautiful and remarkable. All right, family. So we're about to get it in right now.
Yeah, man. Yeah, peace. Yeah, so basically, yeah, it's true. That's a good shout out. Big shout out to Respect, Jedi, for the G circle, man. It's a big thing, man. Big movement. But yeah, basically what was going on is on Sunday we had the G circle, and we was going. The circle. The question was to find out what are the issues in our societies that we can tackle. Dealing with the youth, and just dealing with normal day-to-day issues that we have in the Black community, and any other community as well. So, it came round to me in the circle, everybody was saying their piece, and it came round to me, and the thing that stuck in my mind is education. Do you know what I mean? Educating the youth. Like I said, like the medicine, like I see the medicine as the first grade education, because, growing up in this system and in this society, especially growing up Black in this society, you could see that a lot of the young Black males, should I say, always had an issue when it comes to school and learning. Do you know what I mean? We always found things a bit boring, like we feel like things weren't interesting us. So I was just giving like little perspective on, this is reasons why we should have organizations where we.
So hold down, G. Don't break it all down. Let's at least play the video.
For them. I get carried away sometimes, B.
So yeah, big shout outs to Content over everything. Again, I'm gonna play a video from Content.
Okay. Got you.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Oh, that. I watch things a bit too fast, so let me slow it down.
Say dealing back with the social thing with our people. Me personally, I think the main thing that we need to get academia with is the education, because that's where it starts from. The education from a youth, especially me growing up in school, was not the best, and you can see it from, if many of you got your brothers or sisters, when it comes to school and education, they used to come home and be like, oh, mom, I don't want to do this homework, it's boring, I don't want to do that. So I think the education and teaching about our history would also go back into what the brother was saying about when another brother sees each other. Yes. You know what I mean? Yeah. When you say the brothers when we see each other, why do we feel a certain ways? Because we've not been educated 100%. To know who we are as a people. I think that education about our history and how we saw ourselves, is not being pushed out there as much. 100%. And when it is being pushed out, do you know what they're saying to you? You got to go to the scholars. You know what I mean? You got to go to the man that's well learned to get that information, where you don't need to go to the scholars to get information. You can just pick up a book yourself, speak to one brother that might know the information, and start reading. You know what I mean? Start reading that, because we can all read. No one can't say you can't read. 100%. Do you know what I mean? Pick up a book, learn to read, educate yourself, and then go and ask someone for some understanding. Like, brother, I don't understand this. What does this mean?
This whole back section, they're just like, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So basically, what Gabs?
We're going to translate. Come back to the middle, but this will actually hurt. You know, we're talking more to the middle.
Yeah.
Gabs.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, was that it? Or was there more?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was about it. And then Rasbek obviously was adding a little bit on top of it. But yeah, that was about it. Yeah. So that was basically me breaking down the whole education system, and especially me growing up, because I can vouch for myself. Like, I was one of those kids, if you know, like I was one of those kids that I was not, when it comes to school, I was very easily bored. Like, you know what I mean? Boredom just came to me so easy. I needed to be entertained.
ADHD, they would have called it today.
Trust me. I needed things to be more, how can I say, more energized, more, I don't know, more practical. I love the practical things. That's why I think I was good at PE, you know, science, where you can do the practicals, and even performing arts.
A proper boy, basically, in other words.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So and dealing with like most of the stuff now, if it wasn't for me like reading books and starting to get into reading and finding out different information, I'm telling you, like, from how I was a couple years ago to how I'm now, trust me, if you guys was to see me, I was a whole different as a different person, you know what I mean? So really and truly, it's just to encourage our younger brothers and our sisters, you know, to read. You know, anytime that you're at home, you know what I mean, you can go on YouTube even and just pick up stuff that's entertaining, to do with history, any facts. You know what I mean? Just encouraging the youth to start reading again, because, you know, a lot of them are just getting sucked out into the road. You know what I mean? They're just out on the road just till late, just doing craziness. That's not all kids. Obviously, I'm just saying it's just a majority, I think anyway. But yeah.
All right. So you know what? Yeah. Again, we have to make sure that we're all inclusive right now, you know, because we're definitely going to be talking about education, and we're also going to be talking about certain things to do with Ma'at and so forth, to actually get everybody involved. So yeah, we're going to definitely touch on Islam. I know we got a lot of Muslims that must be around there. So yeah, we're going to touch on some Islam information. Christians, yeah, we're going to touch on some Christianity information. So don't worry, we got you. Hebrew Israelites, trust me, we got you, okay? It's going to be real controversial. We got you. And of course, if you're just into academia, into learning, into science, into information, you couldn't care less about anything else. Like, come on, family. You know I got you for that. So, family, let's get it in. So, you know what, my brother, you know, we had a nice dialogue the other day. I know you wasn't able to because you had to run off to go and deal with this particular section that was being filmed, but I know you wanted to discuss Ma'at. This is one of the key topics that's been brought up a lot with inside the community as of late. One of the major reasons that has been brought up is because, you know, my beautiful brother Zion Lexx, okay, powerful brother, well articulate, very eloquent individual, yeah, has brought this into the atmosphere. The question he brought forward here is, who is the author of Ma'at? Where did the 42 negative confessions come from? And those types of ways right there. So we're going to deal with that. We're going to deal with things to do with you know, a method of coming to know, like method of learning, kind of like epistemology, but less of epistemology, just of how did you know that you know, or what ways or methods did you come to knowledge? those type of things there. So we're dealing with the Gnosis side today as well. We're going to go into a lot of things. We're going to tie it into religion as well. So we've got you. Okay. So, Gabs, what are you saying, family? You going to take over?
Yeah, man, I'm here, man. I'm there. Yeah. So basically, yeah, like what the brother was saying, it was a big discussion that we had on Sunday with one of the Muslim brothers called Anwar. And one of the topics or the questions that he threw out to the brother Kalam was he wanted to know who the author of Ma'at was. That was one. There's two questions he had. He wanted to know who the author of Ma'at was, and the second question is, was that person or whoever that person was that got that, whoever got Ma'at, revealed to them or whatnot, were they trustworthy? Do you know what I mean? Do we have any history on them? Were they a good person? Now, the first issue that I had with that when he was asking that question is that it's kind of weird because it was like he's using, correct me if I'm wrong, he was using the Islamic way of what's the word? The Islamic way of how they question if someone's a trustworthy prophet or messenger. How do you know this person is a messenger? Is he trustworthy? Can everybody else in the community vouch for him and say that, yeah, he hasn't lied, he hasn't stolen, he hasn't done any negative things? Do you know what I mean? So me personally, the question that I posed to him is, I said, regardless of the person's biography, because when you're dealing with school, you still deal with information. So basically, I said, when you're dealing with school, our parents sent us all to school, and we got taught by teachers, and we took that information. Now, our parents didn't go and ask those teachers, excuse me, before you teach my child, can we find out if you're trustworthy? Have you lied before? Have you stolen? Do you know what I mean? All these questions that the Muslims ask on us to ask about the characteristics of the person who gave out Ma'at. We never asked these questions when we went to school. You know what I mean? Our parents never asked these questions when we went to school. In secondary school, in university, no one goes out and finds out the teacher's background and asks for their biography on their life. You just know that you came to school, you got taught, you took the information in, and you came home and you took it as truth. You decided in yourself whether it was true or not. And this is what I was trying to show the brother with Ma'at, because he said he wants to know who the author is. Now, the first thing people got to realize, Ma'at is not the Ma'at is not the same as how they want it to be, like the way the Prophet Muhammad got his revelation. It's just not the same thing. So you can just get that out of your brain. I want people to understand that Ma'at is not a revelation that came down the same way the Prophet Muhammad got his message through the angel Gabriel. It's not the same. Now, when you're dealing with who the author is and who was the person that gave us the Ma'at, yeah, to those people in that land and in that environment, the author of Ma'at is nature. And this is very important. I'm going to say this one more time. Yeah, the author of Ma'at is nature. You see what I'm saying? Because we don't deal with belief of some sort of spirit or some sort of being coming down to give us this information, because we can't say, if we do that, then we're just going to be put in the same realm of belief as the religious people. Do you know what I mean? We know that there's nature there, and this is why you can see it. Everything in nature is what teaches us. We learn from nature. So Ma'at, the author of Ma'at is nature, and then the people in that community, in that environment, they now decide and come together, yeah, and they decide and put the laws together in place, which they think will suit the environment and their people, regardless of outsiders. This is just for their community. These are the laws and the principles that they want to keep for their community. Do you know what I mean? So this is what I wanted to show to the brother Anwar, that when you're saying who is the actual person, like, and we need to know where's their name, where's it written. Like, he wanted to find out like the nitty gritty. He wanted to know the exact person's name who wrote it. He wanted to know if they was trustworthy. He wanted to know, basically, he wanted to know their biography to verify that the message is true. But like I just showed, yeah, with our school teachers, they was giving us information which we was taking as true. but we didn't ask them to give us their biography on their life and to find out whether they were trustworthy or not. We just took on their information. Who knows what your teacher could have got up to once they left the school? We don't know their life. Do you see what I'm saying? They just made sure they came to teach. So that's the same type of way I give it to my aunt. So I want the brothers and sisters to understand that. My art, the first author is nature. We learn everything from nature. That's how we interact, through nature. You see what I'm saying? So my art, the author was nature, and then from nature, the people then come together and decided amongst themselves, yeah, like the same way the UN and the governments come together to decide on what laws they're going to keep and what things they're going to throw out and what things that they're going to add. Do you see what I'm saying? And then obviously put a stamp on it, and then now it's set in stone. So that's just how they did things. Brother Kalam, if you wanted to add anything.
Because, you know, when you were speaking to me earlier on, yesterday, you gave me a perfect analogy. Like, you know, it's like, you know, who authored math? That's like asking the question, who authored maths? You know, like, it's like one of those questions where it's like, really? Actually asking me these questions, like, it really doesn't make any sense. Like, math, okay, or the principle of math has always been in existence, okay? It only now takes a conscious mind, a conscious sentient mind, to be able to think, be able to be cognitive, to think, to actually see. Animals are able to calculate. There is 1 + 1, you know, there means there is 2 birds standing next to me. Oh no, look, there is a crocodile. It's about to eat me. How many teeth does he have? Like, you know, the ways they're like, it's one of those simple things that's going around in nature that everybody. Ma'at is not even, you know, the concept of truth, justice, reciprocity, propriety, balancement, harmony, order, and so forth. It's not a concept that is only singled out to a particular nation of people. Everybody utilizes it within inside of their day-to-day life, regardless of who you are. It's literally maths. It's literally that. It's literally that. Like, to ask the question, it's like, really? Are you really asking me that question? Every single human being knows about the concept of air, for example, the principle of air. We're all breathing in some type of air, some type of oxygen, some type of combination of gases, etc. It's a principle that is within inside of nature. Nobody's the author of it. We're just cognizant of it. That is all it is. It is being cognizant and aware of these principles within inside of nature itself. You know, the brother asked a very, I thought it was a good question at the same time, you know, oh yeah, but you, the 42, you know, the 42 negative confessions, like, who authored that? I'm like, God, like, you know, who gave you the command to do this and so forth? And I'm like, oh man, like, you know, this is not religion. Like, you know, philosophy is definitely not the same thing as religion. Like, remove the religiosity away from it for a hot second and realize you know this inertly. Common sense allows you to know this principle. Brother, if you could just mute your mic, because it's getting crazy. Like, you know, everybody knows this. For example, the principle of theft. You know, it's like, oh, you know, the principle of stealing from a divine, from a nature, basically. Like, you can't possibly know that. You can't possibly know that. It's not within inside of your fitra. Like, brother, it's actually something that is common sense or logical or whatever the case is, that every single human being can actually fathom itself if they have their priorities in order. Every single person knows that taking something from another person is not correct. It's not right. I think we can all agree on that. You know, theft is something that's not good. Theft is something that's not good. Theft is something that in an ordered society we do not know, we do not like. We work with the golden mean. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. If you've got your nice new iPhone and then somebody takes it away from you, you know, because you felt that feeling before, you know it's not good. Oh, but it's a nature. Who taught you to you know, to do that to a nature? Again, question like this, like, you know, we have, you know, 1 + 1, and then we've got 5 plus, you know, what, sorry, ratios. Now let's just do ratio, 1-to-1 ratio. That's fine. Then now let's do a 10-to-1 ratio. Okay, the 10 1-to-1 ratio is much more powerful than a 1-to-1 ratio. What do I mean by that is, if you're going to give something to a 10 people of 10, okay, you know for a fact, okay, taking that thing away is going to cause more harm to just not even just the 1-to-1 ratio that you was initially giving something, you was taking something away from somebody. So in that same principle, a nature represents a lot of people. It represents a whole community. The community itself is nature. The divine principles itself is part of nature. Now, taking away from those aspects is a great misgrievance. It's a great sin to speak of it lightly. So you know inertly that you shouldn't take away from other people's property. You definitely shouldn't even take away from 10 people's property, let alone 100 people's property. It's something built in within inside of you that you can do the simple mathematics to know that it's not right, it's not good. Nobody needs to tell you these things. It's what people don't understand. We work on the principle of just knowing by common sense, logic, empirical evidence, and having something built in within inside of us that we know these things already. It's not brain surgery where we have to think deep about these things here. Now, most people don't realize, and I know a lot of people don't realize because most people are not clued up with Kemetic, philosophy and its literature and so forth. And there is actually a development process. There is a development process that's taking place within inside of the 42 negative confessions. Initially, the 42 negative confessions, okay, or the declarations of innocence. My brother Zion Lexx, and I watched it. I was like, oh, okay, you're on point, but you're slightly off. But you were on point when I actually watched his debate. And things like, I have not stolen. He's saying that, yeah, but you must need a God to tell you not to steal. That's the reason why you're saying, I have not stolen. You're almost there. You're halfway there. You're halfway there in stating that, because, what you're saying is not false, and at the same time, it's not true. Okay, what do I mean by this is there was no command where somebody else had to tell you not to do it. So that's the point where it's not full, where it's not true. Okay, but the point where it's not false, where a God did have to tell you that, or a divine principle did have to tell you that not to do those things. Okay, but those divine principles you found out and you knew for yourself. Okay, for example, the divine principle of just simply being upright and being rectitude and righteous, not to do those things inertly. The divine principles are principles in nature that dwells within inside of yourself that can tell you doing certain things is wrong, so therefore I will not do it. Within inside of the declaration of innocence, it actually forth originated from, number one, a declarations of virtues. Declarations of virtues is what you're declaring is virtuous. You know the right path. You know what is ethical. You know what is righteous. You know what is good. You know what is true. It really originated from that. Once you know what it is to be a virtuous human being, for example, we may have the 7 virtues, and then you know the 7 vices from it. What I mean by that, you have the 7 virtues. For example, you have charity, you have temperance, you have all of those different types of things. I can't even remember it all from the top of my head. Okay, but you know that if you have those things there must be opposites of it. There must be opposites of charity, which will be actually niggardly, which means not being able to share or give something to somebody. Okay, if you're not going to share or give something to somebody, you're holding something back to yourself. Truthfulness, you know what the opposite of truthfulness is, being a liar. So simply, it was born or birthed out of that during a particular time period of people understanding what to be virtuous, but then also utilizing, if there is a positive, there is also something called a negative. So they're just utilizing that principle of positivity and negativity, meaning affirmation and negation. Okay, affirmation and negation, you'll learn heavily about that inside of Kemetic teachings, which we did teach to other people as well. When you do your affirmation, so you do your negation and you do your affirmation, wink, wink, for those of you guys who know, you know. And you know what it is to be virtuous. Now you're actually going to say to a community of people what is not virtuous. So you're going to say to the people, I am virtuous and I am not viceful. Okay, so I am not a thief. I am not a person that actually causes people to cry. I'm not a person who's quick to anger, etc., etc., because you know what it is to be temperament, etc., etc., etc. So it's nothing that somebody has to be author of it or has to command you to do these things. It's what the people was doing itself. And what's the beauty of actually utilizing actual meta nature? It shows you, I'm up a couple shows ago, where it shows you the 42 different nature principles that are there, which literally represents the 42 gnomes and the 42 temples system that was inside of Kemet. And it basically was something that the whole of Kemet, okay, can attest to. There with the whole of Kemet, that's what it actually symbolizes. The whole of this Nile Valley region could actually attest to what is virtuous and what is viceful. Okay, so the whole of Kemet, you're now bearing witness, you're now doing a type of shahada in front of the whole of Kemet to tell them, you know what, I know what it is to be virtuous, and I also know what it means to be viceful, and I will not be viceful to anybody. Also works as a dual companion in terms of the day of judgment, when your deeds will be weighed on a scale of justice. What it actually is as well is to say, if anybody actually brings up any types of complaint, or you know, when you go to court and then someone files a complaint, right? It's filing a complaint. Yep, it's filing a complaint, and you have a dispute with a person. Okay, so if anybody now comes to file a complaint and dispute, you've already stated it within inside of your will that you have not done these things. Okay, and they'll now have to try to pull up some evidence on you to state that you have. But hopefully, by you stating that from the beginning, you have not, and your mind frame is on that you have never actually committed these offenses. If you have committed these offenses, you do it straight away. You try your best straight away to rectify those offenses. You will go to the people that you have actually done wrong to and do right by them. This is the principles of Ma'at. This is the principles of reciprocity. This is the principles of truth and justice and righteousness. You know what it is to be righteous. And yeah, you're right. The Indian version, Hari Singh, is Dharma. Definitely. Are you there? My brother's left me here. Hi.
Yo,
what's going on?
you hear me?
Yo, talk to me.
Yeah, sorry, Bob. I was just reading something. Nah, man. It's good what you said, man. What you broke down there, man. It just makes a lot of sense. But I was just going through the comments here, which is it's funny because this is what I love. I love it when the people leave the comments and we can read it, because sometimes, you know, it just leads into the next part of the discussion that we want to mention. One of the brothers, I think his name's Ronnie, I've got it here. He said, "So if nature created this system, how can y'all claim everybody stole from Kemet?" Now, this is why we always say, yeah, dealing with the education and stuff, yeah, dealing with education and learning and reading, especially reading up on history and stuff, would be good, because then you'd be able to answer this question, especially if you're dealing with history, and even if you was dealing with religious texts. So now, the question he asked again: so if nature created this system, how can y'all claim everybody stole from Kemet? Now, if let's go through. Let's take the religious step first, and then we'll go into history. Yeah. When you're dealing with Kemet, especially from the three major religions, whether it be Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, yeah, you have one major prophet, yeah, that ends up in Egypt, Kemet. Brother Kalam knows who I'm talking about, and most people would know. If you do know, you know, yeah. And that is the prophet Moses. Now, Moses was born in Egypt, and in all the scriptures, it says that for 40 years, Moses was educated in Kemet. Now, the first question you got to ask yourself, and these are one of the first questions I used to ask, Christian pastors and stuff when I was in the church. I used to ask them, like, what was the education that Moses got for 40 years? Like, what did he learn, like, for 40 years? Because 40 years is a long time. Like wow, like, what was going on? Like, and these are questions that, like, the pastor could never answer me. They didn't know. They just said, "Oh well, he was just there. He just learned, obviously, the ways of the pharaohs. That's it." Do you know what I mean? That's the simple one. And obviously, it just gets thrown over. It just gets thrown overboard. So we know that one of the major prophets called Moses, who obviously supposedly got the 10 Commandments. Also, he's the one one of the authors of Genesis, the story of Noah. I think he gave that. I think even Abraham's story is through Moses, one of the books. But anyway, so all these stories that we get from Moses, and this is a person that supposedly was educated in Egypt for 40 years. Now, that education alone, yeah. If we're saying that Ma'at, these like what we're talking about, Ma'at, understanding nature and all this stuff, was what the Kemetic people was educating themselves with, and it was there prior to Moses, then you can only suggest, you can only be fair and say that Moses would have had to have learned all these ways of Ma'at. He would have learned about Ma'at. He would have learned about all the stories. He would have been educated by the highest priests and scribes, because he was raised in the king's house. So he would have had the best of education. So imagine now, let's use it in today's analogy. You was raised by the Queen of England in her house. What type of education are you gonna get? You're gonna get the best. You're either gonna go to Eton, or you're gonna go to one of these top schools, these top primary schools or these grammar schools that they have for the wealthy, and you're gonna go to Oxford and Cambridge. These are the type of universities you're gonna go to. So you're gonna get the best education. Do you see what I'm saying? For 40 years of your life. So you're gonna know the ins and outs of the culture, the history, everything. So we can say that obviously Moses would have been educated in all the mystery systems. So he would have known about astronomy, dealing with the Temple of Dendera, dealing with the stars and the calendars and the movement of the planets and all this stuff. He would have learned that. He would have learned about nature, dealing with Ma'at. He would have learned about medicine, dealing with Bes. The god of medicine and music. Also, one of the grand priest, Imhotep. He would have learned about him. He would have known about all these major figures. He would have known about the stories dealing with Asar, Aset, and Heru. You would have learned about Atum and Ra, the sun, and how it came to be and how it came into existence. So all this stuff he would have learned. Yeah. Now, obviously, you see, it would have got spread out towards. He would have taught the same information would have been taught to the Israelite people. It would have got spread, and that's how it would have spread. You see what I'm saying? Now, dealing with the...
Guys, can I ask you a question?
Go on, bro.
Just a quick question, if I may, bro.
Yeah.
Moses was born in Kemet. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Is there any particular reason why he's not referred to as Kemetan?
Why? That's a good question, That's actually a good question.
Yeah.
It's a good question, because that is actually, because this is a good question that even a question for the Christians or people coming from the Jewish background to answer, because it's true. If he was born there, yeah, you're right. Why would he not be a Kemetan or an Egyptian or wherever? What would be what you know what I mean? So I don't know, man. It's a good question.
I mean, unless being Kemetan means to have a specific creed, or unless being Kemetan means to be from specific people, I don't see why he wouldn't be Kemetan.
It's true. And especially as well, if he would have went through the 40 years of education, he must have been given some titles. Like the same way when you go through school and you get educated, you get and you pass, you become a graduate student, you get all these different titles. He must have been given titles on merit, on obviously on his on all his yearly things that he had learned while being in Egypt for them 40 plus years. After them 40 years of education, he must have been given a title of, I don't know, great master of science or master of nature, or just or something that engulfs all of them. So yeah, who knows? Do you know what I mean? So, but that was a good question. But going back, sorry to cut you, but going back in now into the... Sorry.
I was going to quickly say, just to let them know, like, he was actually called remember the story of the 7 daughters of Midian. He came and he was actually helping them with the other people, the shepherds, when they wanted to go to the well to drink from the well, and they was carrying out the buckets of the waters, etc. And these men came over and trying to muscle their way in, and then he kind of came and stepped in and saved them from the whole scenario, and then he went back and so forth. Do you remember that story? Do you not remember? And then the Midian asked, like, oh, what happened? Who saved you? What took place? And it was like, oh, this Egyptian man. So he was actually called an Egyptian or Kemetic by outside people who viewed him as being a Kemetic or viewed him as being Egyptian, just to put it out there.
Doesn't that pretty much end the argument then?
Exactly.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't hear you, Ahmed.
I said, doesn't that pretty much end the argument then?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah, it basically does. See, it basically does, bro. And remember, and I know why you're saying that, because you remember we was on the other night and we was discussing this, innit? And it made sense, because if we know all the stuff, some of the stuff that he was teaching, if we can find that the stuff was there prior in the place where he was educated, then surely he must have taken the same things. I'm not saying that he stole it, but we would like to be a bit fair and just say he borrowed. He borrowed some of the stuff that he had learned and brought it to other people who were unlearned. Do you know what I mean? Because you got to see it all as education, and this is why when I was talking to the brother Kalam, I wanted to stress that for you to understand Kemet and what was going on there, you need to just see it as a school. Just imagine, just think of school and education, what you did, growing up as a child, when you was in nursery, yeah, you got taught the stories, and when everybody went to nursery, all it was about playing with crayons and Play-Doh, but then it was always story time. Yeah, that's what they did as a child. That's the first stage, is story time and just explore and play and stuff. So they told you all the stories about, Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, Little Red Riding Hood. Who else is there? Little Red Riding Hood, Snow White. All those fairy tales. The tortoise, the tortoise and the hare. These were stories. These are the stories that you started as when you was in a certain level, which was nursery.
To be frank, Gabs, you see, for example, with the Abrahamic faith, I mean, we do say that, revelation has come numerous times to numerous people. So with that said, in one of the very first, peace and blessing be upon him, and him coming from Kemet, that would pretty much just it's basically primary and, middle school, high school, etc. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it seems to me like it's more of a cultural beef, and the African culture is being dismissed. That's what it seems to me.
That's right. Can you hear me? Okay. So real quickly, because you know me, I always like to make sure that whenever I say something, like, please produce the dalil, produce the dalil, produce the evidence, or produce the evidence, so people can't complain later on and have this psychosis of not actually seeing and knowing these things. So as you can see here from Exodus chapter 2, verse 16, it says here, now the priests of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the throes to water their father's flocks. And the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flocks. And when they came to Ruel, their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us to an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flocks. And he said unto his daughters, and where is he? Why is it that ye have left the man? Call him that he may eat bread. And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter. So yes, so just real quickly, just to show you that yes, he was actually called an Egyptian, for those who need it and need to see the evidence.
You see? Yeah. Yep. Yep. That is that's a big point there. So yeah, going back to what we were saying, yeah, like yeah, if you see Kemet and understand it to if you just resemble it as school and going through all the different stages in school, like I said, nursery, then after nursery you go to primary school, then after primary school you go to secondary school, then after secondary school, if you want, you can go to college, then after college, if you want to go for extra learning and you want to grow more, you go to university. You know what I mean? And once you've made it into university and you're there for a couple of years, if you want to do that little extra bit again and get proper knowledge and get the best grade, yeah, you can do the little extras and go for your masters or your doctorate. This is all the same things that you see in Kemet. Like Moses had to be educated for the 40 years. That's like basically the same like how we go through our school system. We start school at the age of what? Nursery.
Yo, you there? Gabs. I know you're on a roll, man. I don't know what's going on. You might have muted yourself by accident.
He's with Talk.
If I ask something right quick, man.
Go ahead, King.
He said you got to resemble it, like you got to think of it as a school. I was just wondering, why do you have to think of it as a school?
Because that's literally what it was. It was an education system. It was a temple school complex.
Was it also a belief system?
No.
Was it methodology into the Kemet?
Yes.
Did they believe what they were saying?
Mythology and beliefs are two different things. So, for example, if I tell you the story about the tortoise and the hare, which actually comes from Kemet. If I tell you the story about the tortoise and the hare, it's actually a mythos or a fable or story that is told to actually inculcate a deeper meaning or a deeper truth or a deeper moral to the story. Did you literally believe that a tortoise and a hare actually had a race with each other, and there is the finish line across there, and Bugs Bunny is now actually, going, poof, go on, run, little rabbit, run. No one is actually believing that. But we understand the meaning. We understand that we need to amplify a story in a much abstract, very surreal way, so it sticks into our brain. If we just told a very dull, dreary story about, yes, little boy, you must not run too fast. You should take your time and think about what you should be doing. And you tell it a very dead, dreary, monotone way. Nobody's really caring, but that story really captivated your mind as a child and as an adult, and you still know it up to this day and point. So that's what's going on with inside of Kemet. They were telling stories or fables or mythos in a very abstract, very surreal way, built inculcating meaning, truth on various different levels or substratums.
I understand. Definitely understand. I've been told that that in Kemet they also worship like the sun, like something like the Akhenaten, something like that. Discovering that was the true God, it was the sun, and they kind of have a belief on that. Was they wrong on that, or was they telling the truth?
No, again, it's people coming in from their own worldview and actually trying to superimpose their worldview onto another culture's worldview, which is 100% wrong. I was going to give an example, but I didn't want to go there. But as simple as they never actually viewed the sun as being the deity of the creator or anything like that. It was actually a symbol, and actually, yes, literally a symbol and representative of that creative and that active and creative power and energy that the creative or the hidden force actually gives off and out. So it's very deep. Obviously, Akhenaten was actually a heretic in terms of the Kemetic school of thought, and it's something completely different, but it's still in line with the same symbolic framework that they dealt with. So, for example, Even Jesus is, pictured as being the son of God, and usually you see him with the halo and sun around him. But do Christians really believe he's got this halo around him? When they call him, he's the Lamb of God. Do Christians really believe that Jesus is a literal, actual ram and so forth? No, I don't think they do. So again, it's people, looking into a culture, but actually utilizing their own worldview to translate it to make sense to them. And usually they do a very dreary, despicable, they come to a very, I don't know, I don't even know what to say, a very false or fallacious understanding of what the people are actually stating.
Is it even innocent, or do you think there's an agenda behind it?
That's a very good question. It's a very good question. I think there is an agenda behind it. Literally, if you actually want to study a culture, and there is a field of study such as anthropology and sociology, that you have to look at neighboring countries or other ethnicities or other nations that share similar worldviews, and actually see if there is any similarity. You do a comparative analysis and so forth, and you utilize that particular worldview to even try to translate or interpret it. So I don't think they do. They simply go with either the Greek understanding, the Roman understanding, the Hebrew understanding, and all these other groups, rather than delving into the African understanding, where us as chematologists, usually we consider this chematologists in the field of studying Egypt, because we have the Egyptologists. They usually come from a very Eurocentric worldview. We come from a very African-centered worldview. We look at the nations surrounding Kemet, or surrounding it, to be able to interpret it. We look into Africa. We look into places like Arabia as well, that is quite close. We look into Samaria, places like that have relationship with Kemet and so forth, to give a proper, natural, indigenous interpretation of the information, rather than from a Eurocentric point of view. So again, there is sometimes, I wouldn't say that it is innocent. Sometimes it actually is an agenda to push it so they can actually, how can I put it, cut off Egypt from the rest of Africa and make it annexed to Europe, basically. So there is that type of ideology or that type of complex going on. For example, when you go into the British Museum, you have a section, a very beautiful, massive section called Egypt. Then you go out of that section and literally downstairs in a very small, I wouldn't say dingy, that's not giving it enough respect, a very small area, and it's called the African section. So one has to ask oneself the question, is Egypt, that's up here upstairs, that's got such a big, beautiful array of things, or is it separate from Africa? And it seems as though they've actually separated the idea of Egypt from Africa, if you get what I mean. So just on a British museum, on a very subconscious level, you can see that there is an agenda taking place.
You mind if I ask another question, man?
Go ahead, real quickly.
Do you have any evidence I can go to that state the claim that they was just looking at it as a school, like the people who was there in Egypt or in Kemet? Any evidence that they was just looking at that as a nursery book or like a school thing?
Oh, can I answer that, bro? Because I was gonna get into it still, and I'm glad you said that. You wanted evidence to know that if it was a school, yeah?
No, not evidence that it was a school. Because I know it was a school.
Say again?
I said not evidence that it was a school, but
so
evidence.
What?
The evidence that state the claim that they were just looking at it, that they was only looking at it as a school.
That they was only looking at it as school. Okay. Now, to show you even looking at it as a school and not religion, yeah? Even if you deal with, and this is very important, especially if you're dealing with history, even if you deal with the Greeks that came, you have Greek scientists that came to Kemet, and they tell you that they came to learn. Now, those Greek philosophers who came, they left their country where at the time where they were from, they were dealing with Greek gods and religion. They were dealing with Greek gods and religion, and they came over to Kemet they learned and got educated, and they didn't still.
Oh my
This
gosh,
angry
what's going on with
things. Say again?
yo, Gabs?
Say
It's
that, please.
breaking up.
Your network is
Is it
crazy.
breaking up?
No, yeah, man. I beg,
Oh,
find
sugar.
somewhere, find somewhere real quickly. So I'm gonna just quickly break down what Gabs was saying. Basically, hopefully I'm reading your mind correctly. You know, when we have like, you know, evidences from other groups of people that have actually visited Kemet to actually study, and they've stated that they've come there to literally study information. And guess what? These Greeks, when they came into Kemet, they came with their own ideologies, and they left being atheists. Literally, when you go into their studies, you'll find that as atheists, looking at these Greek gods of Zeus, chucking thunderbolts and all these things here, like Socrates. He was literally, what did he call himself? What's it called? A gnat. What's that fly called again? I can't remember the fly. Basically, he was literally a fly just stinging people because he was questioning the ridiculous belief system, okay? The ridiculous belief system that they had based upon the knowledge and information and education that they actually received from Kemet itself, or from Egypt itself. So we're definitely going to go into a little bit more information about it, because of course, so we put forward a Kemetic creed, right? I don't know if you've been apt to it or in tune with it. The Kemetic creed, literally one of the very basic concepts which you might have heard of before, outside of us actually delivering it to you, is know thyself. Know thyself, know the mysteries of the universe, and you will know the nature, or you will know God, basically. So these women, what they dealt with, you know, rech, which literally means knowledge. Literally, knowledge, coming to know. Again, literally means knowledge, knowing something. It's the science of knowledge, science, or the love of science, basically. The whole philosophy of Kemet was built on knowledge. You can't tell me the most greatest civilization of all humanity, building pyramids that we can't build today, aligning it to the star systems, etc., the temples, magnificent temples, structures, and so forth. You need precise knowledge, precise information, precise data, precise scientific methods to be able to come to these conclusions, to basically build off of these different fields of studies, to deal with geography, to deal with astronomy, to deal with architecture, to deal with mineralogy, to deal with all of these different types of things, to actually construct and create magnificent structures as they have created. It was due to science and knowledge and developing that. So into more information in a little while and touch on the different sciences that these people would have learned. Another good book, or another source, if you definitely want to learn more, is you know, GM James's Stolen Legacy. Touches on it, but there's other places within inside of source material that does touch on it as well. If you go into the Sebaite literature, I don't know if I'm losing you here, but if you go into the Sebaite literature, you'll find a lot of these teachings in there of what the purposes of temple structure was for. You know, you literally have to go there and learn hieroglyphs. You have your Para'ank, where you go to learn hieroglyphs. For those of us who actually study hieroglyphs now, we have to memorize over 750 to 800 glyphs. 700. Let me just say a nice round number. Let me say 700. You have to memorize 700. Yeah. And people want to think that this isn't a temple, a university / college structure that's teaching you this information. Do you know how difficult that is? Then you need to get the teachings and lecture upon every single glyph to realize what not even just learning it. You have animals now, birds. You have you know, insects. You have domestic animals. You have like apes and so forth. You need to learn, literally study in nature the attributes of all those different animals. Okay, you need to study all of those things there. Like, oh look, there is a dog. What's the symbol for the dog? The symbol for the dog is ow. Ow. Why does it say ow? Because that's literally the sound a dog makes. Oh, that's the sound it makes. So you study. Oh, okay, I've seen it. So what is like a dog? What would you say is like a dog? The other thing that's like a dog that we always talk about is cats and dogs. What's the name for a cat. Oh, the name for a cat. Guess what the name for a cat is? For those, if you think wolf or owl is the name for a dog, what's the name for a cat? Somebody.
Uh,
Anybody?
a cat, a lion.
Nope. What's the name for a cat? If the sound that a dog
Meow.
makes, there you go. So you realize, oh, so the name for a cat is called meow. Wow, that's literally what it is. And how is that spelled? It's literally spelled meow. Huh? What does that mean? The me symbol means like a dog. Oh wow, imagine that. And then there's a whole study on a cat, what it actually represents, the powers it has and so forth, and how you can become more cat-like in your own attributes themselves. Learn about the cleanliness of a cat, learn how you can clean yourself. There's so much different lessons you learn just by going into a temple system to learn about hieroglyphs alone. That's just hieroglyphs. That's just one element that you need to learn. Then you need to go and learn, when you go past that, seshat, which is the ability, which is seshat is the seven, it's got the seven stems. Cannabis people say seven like leaf thing, basically, and it deals with the seven liberal arts. Okay, the seven liberal arts, and you now need to go to be able to write full stop. You've learned how to see these things, see these animals, look at them in nature. Now you need to be able to actually orthography, learn how to write these things out. And that's a long lesson that needs to be taking place. When you go into the archaeology and find there are little onomastics, they call it onomastics, where it's literally stone plates, where you see the scribes, the little children literally going through, writing these things over and over and over and over and over again until they get it perfectly right. Because it needs to be in a mathematical structure of little cubes that you need to make sure that you hit it just right and so forth. Like, you need to learn that. Then once you learn that, you need to go into the school of Anupu. Anupu is the ability to think logically, to be able to reason soundly and so forth. You need to study the dog yet again, which is the jackal, and what it does, and all them different roles there. Then you need to go into the schools of Jehuti and learn about that. Then you need to go into the schools of Fasar, how to become an ancestor and so forth and be effective, how to become a haru in your day-to-day life, how to be like a bar, which you can make a bar anywhere it was, how to be able to acquire a shawabati, which literally means servant, being able to create a business-like structure or economic base where somebody else is working for you on your behalf to bring in revenue, so you can do much more grander things than simply going to work on a 9-to-5 daily basis. So there's so much that is actually taught with inside of a temple school system. I digress, but most people just
Can I interject?
Beliefs. Go ahead, King.
I feel as though people have a hard time believing that had this sort of sophisticated system. As African people outside of stereotyping Africans as nothing other than backward.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only reason it could be for people to have a hard time grasping that people who had a civilization before anyone else could have developed such sophisticated system.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the only reason why they would to even fathom that.
Yeah, you're right. And Ahmed, you're right. You know what? It is true. And that's down to society. And again, another thing, education. Do you see what I'm saying? It's all going to boil down to the education, and that's down to what society and the education we got taught growing up. Do you know what I mean? The education we got taught growing up is that, you have those Africans over there, they deal with mud huts, their history. The history you got taught about Africa was to deal with slavery. Maybe the only people you did really, the only main figures that you did really get taught about was Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, what's the other one? Rosa Parks. That's how far back they give you. That's the main. Those are the good bits. But the bits about the school systems and stuff like that, and education, and that we brought all this education out to the world. Because remember, at them times, going back in the times, remember the world was unlearned. Not everybody could read and write. In Europe, people couldn't read and write. In the deserts in the Middle East, not everybody could read and write. Different places, loads of people couldn't read and write. So it's funny that when you're dealing with the history, you see now why so many countries, all these different cultures came and invaded Kemet, and they came there to learn or they either invaded and took some of the knowledge, and they all left back with knowledge and education, and then their own cultures and stuff started to thrive and grow. Whilst obviously Egypt and that began to fail because it had been pillaged and so much things had been taken. And even to go back into the point on why I still need to digress this whole education, you have to see it as a school and education, because even Ahmed, vouch for me, who was the first human being to be educated from a Muslim point of view?
A black man named Adam.
Okay, and what did Allah do? What did Allah do, Ahmed?
He told the names. Oh, you're talking about the spirit?
No. What did Allah? You said the first man to be educated was Adam, yeah. And how did Allah educate him?
He taught him everything there is.
Do you see what I'm saying? The same thing. So even from the very beginning, man was getting through that education. Allah had to teach him everything, had to teach him about the animals, had to teach him about the water, had to teach him about the stars, had to teach him about the sun, had to teach him about all these things. And these are the same things that you see replicated in Kemet. Do you know what I mean? From a young age, you're being taught about the animals, like the brother Kalam was saying. You have to be taught about the water system. You have to be taught about the plant domain, the mineral domain, the heavens, what's going on in the sky, all that stuff. All this stuff is education. Do you see what I'm saying? So,
brother, you mind if I ask a question?
Go on, bro.
You said that these people came in and invaded, Egypt.
Yeah.
And when these people came in and invaded Egypt, did they took the education and religion and twisted it, or was it just the education?
Nah, see, and you're still gonna say religion. You see, now back then, what was religion? The only thing that
a family tie, like a tie to your family.
Okay, so yeah, think about it. If you now invade a country, and obviously in that country they have a way of doing things that obviously in your country you don't do. Of course, you might take some of the stuff that you've learned from there, because especially if you've gone to a place where they have grand, like the brother Kalam was saying, grand temples. They have pyramids that are built so perfectly. You have carvings of statues, people's faces being carved so precisely. You know what I mean? You're gonna want to know. You're gonna want to teach your people. You're gonna want to get your people to that level. You're gonna want to know, like, hold on, like I need to take this stuff. So at least if we do get overthrown, at least we could take some of this knowledge back to our land. So yeah, of course, any invader, if they're in their right mind, they're gonna take the information of the place they're invading, 100%. Do you know what I mean? And that's only to better their people and help their people.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, okay, because I didn't understand, because if you chase down religion all the way down to the first Bible, you'll pretty much come up in Egypt. So that's why I was saying, is it just education you're talking about? So that's why that's why I was just adding that fact. And then there's also a thing called the Muzon. You ever heard of that?
The who?
The Muzon.
I've never heard of that.
The Muzon is kind of like the where you got the first Bible, like the Septuagint or the Codex and Codex.
Sinaiticus. Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
They pretty much took all the stuff that was in Egypt, the Pentateuch or the Pentateuch.
Okay.
And it pretty much made this Bible, you know what I'm saying, off the Egypt customs. And and you kind of see that Egypt and the Bible kind of have something there similar.
100%.
Yeah, that's why I do. That's why I do believe that they came and invaded and took the education, but they also came and took the religion as well and twisted it as to their own.
I'll tell you. Do you know what, me personally? I tell you the bit which they made religion. They took the stories. You see the stories that you have, the stories that were being taught in the community, because you had the stories and you have the practical. Do you know what I mean? You always need the stories and the practical. They go hand in hand. You have the pictures and stuff,
Mhm.
and then you have the practical stuff. I think what it is, I think, is where religion kind of differs a bit is they dwell on the stories. So the stories that we had to try and explain the practical stuff, where like where you hear the brother Kalam saying the stories are not literal. It's just to help. It's just to help you get deeper understanding, deeper meanings. I think some people or whoever those people were took the stories and actually made them literal. I don't believe the original people at the time obviously might have took them stories literally. I just think over time, throughout history and that people have just gravitated to the stories. And obviously everybody loves a good story, the same way you love a good movie with a good storyline. So they just gravitated to the stories and not dealt with the deeper meaning and understanding behind it. Do you see what I'm saying? So they literally believe that there's a group of angels or people that's going to be coming out the clouds and a man walking on water, and you know what I mean. You can believe those stories, that's fine, but you know what I mean. There's a deeper meaning and deeper science, should I say, science and maths behind it. That's all. But there is
Yeah.
some science and maths in the
That's right.
Bible. That's the thing.
That's right.
It's there. Go on, Kalam.
I'm gonna real quickly, because I'm gonna make it get a little bit interesting right about now. So you know what? I want to go into some New Testament right now. I want to make sure that I got everybody's attention right about now. So family, this is gonna get real interesting. Okay, don't tell me my mic. Say my mic good now. All right, cool. My mic is good. So I want to get in. Interesting. I want to go into the story of Abraham. Why do I want to go into the story of Abraham? You may ask. The story of Abraham is one of the most fundamental things in the whole of the Bible. Why do I say this? Again, question, Gabs, who's the father of the Abrahamic faiths?
That's actually funny. It's Abraham. Yeah, it's Abraham.
Already know it's Abraham. So Abraham is one of the key the key individuals in all of the stories, whether you are Christian, whether you're a Jew, whether you're a Muslim, you all trace your lineage back over to Abraham. Okay, now I want to ask the question: who does Abraham trace his lineage back to? Who did Abraham get his covenant from? That's where I want to go right now. That's actually where I want to go right now. Be real interesting. That's going to be real interesting. It's going to bring